have Freedom here. She used CNY. So, why don't you just walk us through a little bit of your journey? I know that we gave a little snippets, but at age 22, they said you needed a hysterectomy, right?
Yeah. So I was in the military, and basically, hold on. Yeah. This is where we are now.
Okay.
Sorry. I was in the military. I had an ectopic pregnancy. I was 9 weeks pregnant in the tube.
Oh,
So
wow.
it ruptured. Mm-hmm. I thought it was gas pain. I didn't know it was all that. You can hear me cleaning up toys too. I thought it was gas pain, and I didn't know I was pregnant. I hadn't gained any weight. I wasn't throwing up or anything. And even with this one, I wasn't sick at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I just got chunky. Real chunky. So yeah, I was told basically to get a hysterectomy. My tube had started to rupture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only option he gave me. And here's the thing, it was a result of the ectopic that I got endometriosis. I did not have it before.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So fast forward to you trying and going to CNY. So what caused you and led you to go to those steps of having to go to so I'm assuming that both of your tubes were removed?
So no, one tube was working, the other tube was, I didn't know it was blocked after my miscarriage. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was blocked. And but I had started in right after that really fatal or that really emotional and heartbreaking miscarriage that I had in March. We had already talked about going down this journey. So I just knew that I didn't want to go through that again. You know?
Right.
I was like, this is bull. Like every time I've gotten pregnant, I have a miscarriage. And this time I went further along, and I actually got a biopsy done, and they said that it was really odd because it wasn't that it was anything wrong with the cells. It just stopped developing. Okay. I was like, okay, that's odd. That's odd. So I said, if that's the case, I'd rather have, to a degree, we have to acknowledge that IVF gives you certain control if you're good at it, right?
Right.
It gives you certain control. Like if you do PGT testing, you can say, okay, I only want girls, I only want boys. You can say, oh, only the highest quality ones, that kind of stuff. At the same time, there's a grieving process that you have to go through that.
Right.
So that was part of the problem for me. I had to accept that, and that was a bit of a bite, and he had to accept that. And that was a bit of a bite. That was a really strong bite. But my coworker, who I worked at USAID, which is a government organization for humanitarian aid, she went through IVF, and when she discovered how much we had paid, or about to pay at Shady Grove, and how much we had paid at Dominion, which was, I can't talk highly enough about how sweet those people were. Dominion Fertility in Northern Virginia, Dr. S, I say that because if I say her name now, I'm not remembering how to spell it. I think it's Sarasota or something like that. She's actually German and Indian. She was the sweetest person to work with. So I do recommend that clinic. They will work with you. It's just that in Virginia, one cycle's $45,000.
Right. It's very expensive at Dominion. I looked them up. They are very expensive.
You'll get good quality. It's easy because you're there and everything's going to be done there. And it's actually, the irony of it is in the same building as Shady Grove. But she told me how much she paid for it. I remember when she told my husband and myself how much she paid for it. And we said, you paid what? We were like, no, it's got to be a crackpot. It was like, what type of shady clinic is that? Cheap? And she's like, no, it's cheap because there's ways that you can cut corners for yourself. Right. And it's cheap because of how their packaging works. And so we were like, fuck it. We ain't got nothing to lose, Only
Right.
time.
Right.
Which is the other thing you mourn about.
Right.
You mourn about time. We went up there. She told us basically she spent 15 grand.
And this was with CNY? Oh, yeah.
Central New York, which is half the price of when we heard how much it was going to cost. We said we didn't have a choice but to try it. We weren't sure how it was going to work because we're going up there for this and then we got to come back down here for this. But we looked at it is that we always scheduled our vacations around there. And the irony of it is that we used to chill up in Woodstock area, which is near Syracuse anyways, in Albany anyways. That's where we would go hiking, mountain bike riding and all that stuff anyway. So it didn't even matter to us. We were like, okay, let's go explore more of upstate New York, which is a beautiful drive from DC. And it's a 7-hour drive from DC. So it's all manageable. So that's why we went up to Shady Grove, I'm sorry, to CMY, and it wasn't as complicated as we thought it was. It was more so the unknown and trying to do remote. We were kind of like, is this gonna work? Am I gonna get my timing right to travel? That type of stuff. But I was doing my monitoring at Shady Grove, actually. I had this nurse that was doing my monitoring for me, measurements. And she was former Coast Guard and I'm former Navy. And she says, I got you. And she said, I'm going to make sure you have this baby. And she said, I'm going to take in consideration your time to get up there. And then I'm going to basically have it so that you will be able to get up there with some buffer room to do your transfer.
Wow.
That's what she did. And she's like, okay, I did a ultrasound and she did my line. She said, okay, you're at 6. I want you to start heading up there because by the time you get up there, you'll be 7. And she nailed it on the money.
Wow.
She nailed it on the money. I was 7 milliliters when I got up there. They did the transfer, the second transfer. Like I said, I went right into it. I can't hold this. This is heavy. I did the second transfer and that happened.
When you transferred, you actually used your own embryo and then you used a donor egg. Now, what made a donor embryo? So what made you come to the conclusion of doing 2 instead of just trying with your own and then just doing the donor embryo?
Was crap. Mine were absolute crap.
So you were just doing a gamut. You were just doing like a Hail Mary at this point.
So I wanted twins. I wanted this to be done right here. I wanted this to be done. Like, granted, they wouldn't have been like DNA twins other than having the same, like, let's say if miracles were to ever happen like that. But I wanted twins. And the only thing I dislike about it is that while I was getting Aria, when I was having a conversation with them, they said, okay, yeah, we can do the twins. We can do even 2 of the donor eggs if you want. But all my donor eggs were high quality.
Okay.
And so they were concerned for my health because of my age. But I swear I would have rather have just gone through it once because that was a hit. It was a hit. We did it. That this would have been the end of my story. I wouldn't have to go through these shots again. I wouldn't worry about endometriosis creeping up on the corner again, those kind of things. So that's the issue.
Okay, so do you know which embryo took?
Yes, it's a donor.
Okay, you do know for a fact. Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who maybe is in a situation where they have their own, maybe not of high quality? Would you recommend them transferring both at the same time, or would you say you do?
I mean, yeah, because so like I see, it was my last hurrah. Go team! But it was really like, go team! It was really more like that.
Were they day 3 or were they full blown embryos? Were they?
So I didn't get but like 1 or 2 embryos in the first place. That's why I stopped. That's why it's like, this doesn't make financial sense for me to be going through this to do an egg retrieval only for it not to take from me. And I'm coming up with 2 eggs. I mean, if you at least gave me 5, I would say, okay, I can get an eye
Right.
out of that. But 2 eggs, it was like, and then it was like, one. Actually, that's not true. We did one at Dominion, and I regret that I didn't know more about the IVF process. And we're going to send it to PGT testing, but we only had 1 egg.
Okay.
We should have just transferred it. It didn't last after day 4.
So they probably would have did it at day 3, and then with the hopes that it would just grow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
With my second transfer, my first transfer at CNY, we did a transfer of 3-day embryos on December 23rd. We did a transfer of a 3-day embryo, and we wanted it to be a 5-day embryo or 6-day embryo, but because it fell on a holiday, they were going to be closed, so we had to do a 3-day embryo or either a 7-day embryo.
Right.
So I said, let's just try it. It was a 4AA. Perfect egg. You can't get no better than that.
Right.
And it didn't take. And so that's the other emotional thing. Like as Sherry was talking last week, Sherry was talking about it. Your failures, you have to be able to cope with them. So you really do have to build yourself. You have to become strong at yourself, because if you don't, each of these is a chip to your ego, and it can bring you really low. It can bring you low. So that was a chip. I mean, I just come out of that miscarriage. So I was feeling really rejected at that point. And then he asked me, he said, what do you want to do? I said, let's just go right back in. I don't want to take a break. I got all these drugs in my system. I feel like having the drugs in my system already is setting a platform so that when I compound it on top of the other drugs, it's more stable. That's my logic as a non-doctor, okay?
Right.
And so I waited for everything to clean out. January 25th, we went in for the second transfer. And I got Dr. Kiltz this time.
The man himself. The man of CNY.
I was not expecting that. He came in the room. I was like, Kiltz? And he was like, yes, nice to meet you. Da, 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 da. Let's talk about keto. I was like, not right now.
Not right now.
He is a little
Eccentric.
He's a character.
Yeah.
He's very religious. He's very, very religious. I'm religious. My husband isn't so religious, and I'm not even that hardcore religious. He prayed over me and everything. I said, but before that, though, I'm going to say what Sherry did. You need to be relaxed. You really do need to be relaxed, guys. I did massages the day before, I did facials 3 days before we went up. And the reason why is because when you have when you're pregnant, your skin may react differently to different types of things on your face. So I did spa treatment for myself the day before. We stayed in a really nice hotel. I wanted to take a bubble bath a week before. I was like, let me get my last bath in. And I didn't do that, but we even went up. We stayed at the Marriott in Syracuse. Yeah, the Marriott in Syracuse, and we brought my Doberman with me because they were dog friendly. We walked around the day before. Like, you really need to just drop it all before then. And then before it, I had a massage and I had acupuncture. And wait, this is shortly after I met Sherry online. This is how Sherry came into the picture. We're driving up, and I have this Liptoid package, this little package of stuff they give you as an injection to help your body not reject the egg. And I purchased it. I left the damn thing at home. Sherry was in the car going through the checklist with me. Okay, you got this. And I was like, no, oh my God, Sherry, I forgot the package. Oh my God. She's like, it's okay. Call them and see. Like, she was our checklist person. She was on the phone with us as we were driving up. I did not expect that from her. And that is why she is just one of my angels. And she was on the phone with me after it was done. So it was really, really, she just has a secure spot in my heart forever. And that's Arya's little cousin, Ella Jane. That's her cousin. And we're trying to keep this community together because these kids are kind of unique, you know? And I don't want anybody targeting them because of their uniqueness, because I'm being open with her about her journey.
Right.
I have several angels. I have an egg angel and I have guardian angels in my life, physically and spiritually. So my egg angel helped me have her. But I only got 3 eggs out of 4, which is great. Here's what I regret, Ronnie. I wish we'd gotten 6. If they tell you to get 6, folks, get 6.
I tell people, I would say, honestly, if you can get 16,
Oh, yeah,
I say get 16. If you're
Yeah.
looking just to get frozen eggs, I say get 16. I will say
Yeah.
that all the time. They will ask me that, like,
Yeah.
All right.
and the reason why I say this, and you can agree, is what most people think is 8 eggs is too many, and like I'm gonna have all these embryos left. When the reality is, get as many as you can afford. Yes, get as many as you can afford. But the reality is, I tell them to worry about those embryos later, because there's no guarantee that first transfer is gonna work. There's no guarantee, because look, here I am. I have 10 embryos, and I mean no babies. So if I had that mindset of I only need 2 or 3 and it didn't work, I would be at a situation where I need more embryos.
That's what happened to me. That's
Right.
what happened to us. That's exactly what happened to us. And my first donor was a fluke. I don't know if you heard that story. Like you're scrolling.
No.
Okay, so you're scrolling through page. I'm like, okay. So here's the other thing I tell people: brace yourself. 1 in like 100 is going to be a person of color. 1 in 150 to 200 might be Asian parts, but you're really looking at more like 300. Depends on where you live in the country, to be honest with you. You might have a higher chance in LA or something like that where there's a higher Asian population. But then again, it may also be against some people's culture. So, there's that. You really need to take in consideration that there's a lower quantity of you in that candidate pool. And then on top of that, there's a line. She didn't arrive there when you got there. Girl, she been there the whole time. And people already stood in line with her to say, hey, there's something pulling me to this donor. There's something pulling me towards her to say, this is who I should use, And other people may get that vibe too. And so that's just something that you have to think about, because then there's the other aspect of it. If she's not reliable and she quits, why do you wait all this time? And then there's the other aspect of, what if she has a bad retrieval?
My donor, the first time she went to her egg retrieval, guess what? It got canceled. She had a cyst and she had to start over. So I got a call and they were like, so we did your baseline for your donor. She had a cyst, so we're gonna have to cancel. And I was like, okay. And I mean, I had to wait another month till she started. But I mean, the next month and they, you know what they told me? It was like, she's coming back. Like, I know you're like panicking, like she's not coming back. We promise you she's coming back, but it's not safe for her to do it right now. And I said, okay.
Yeah, because she's not, we're not in The Handmaid's Tale,
Say that again.
These are living, breathing women who have a life, some of them have a family already. I just discovered that my daughter's babysitter did donor eggs. She donated her eggs, and she has a little boy named Milo, and Arya plays with her. But and I covered some politics of laws that are being passed right now on my channel.
Yeah. Really, but I mean, there's certain laws and everything that you need to know. I mean, and if you are going to CNY, you have to understand that, there's certain things that they make you go through a little bit extra than other states will, because New York is very stringent about different things. So a lot of times women have to go to another state to transfer. So they may have to go to Colorado because they follow those laws within that state. So if you're trying to donate or get donor embryos from CNY, they require extra things for you to get those embryos. So you do need to keep that in mind when you're using CNY in New York specifically.
Oh, I'll let you know about it, because that's what we're doing now.
Okay.
I did my last transfer for my okay, wait, backtrack. So this donor, she was sometimes show up at the top of the next page or the bottom of the previous page. And sometimes she wouldn't show up at all. But I screenshotted it. And I said, hey, what's going on with this donor? And they were like, oh, yeah. There's nobody in line. I was like, what? And I think it's because she was glitching in and out. And she looked like my cousin. I was like, oh, whoa. I was like, okay, I'll take her. Like, I felt kind of bad saying that. It felt like I was at a grocery store or something. It's so awkward, isn't it? It's just like, okay. So I started saying, I'll work with her. That's what I'll say. I'll work with her. And it was the first time. So I was really taking a risk that she could cancel. But she didn't. And they offered me 6 to 8 eggs, but we only did 4 because that's what we could afford at the time. Mm-hmm. We only were able to afford 4 eggs, and this was kind of still test experience for us because we were still in our feelings. I was partially in my feelings, but I was more dedicated to it. But this is something that maybe your partner may not really be ready to go down that ski slope yet, because it's pretty fast and furious, and you have to accept some things, you know. So we only got 4 eggs and 3 embryos. How awesome is that? And that's why I really wish we would have just gone
more
6, 8, because she was golden. She was a golden goose. So that, you know, that's part of it. And then I did the first transfer that failed at a 4AA. And then I did the second transfer, and Aria was a 4 capital A lowercase a. And
so you talk about your donor, and you talk about how, you know, you found her. Now, how did race play into you picking her? Was she from the same race?
Yes, I'm technically a Black mix, so I identify as Black community. Do you know what I mean? Like I know that I would not exist if it was not for the other ethnic components in my life. Okay. So that's the way I look at it. And I wanted somebody who, even though because she's going to be half Korean as it is. I lived that gray line off and on in my life, depending on where I lived. I knew how to explain that right there. Here's the thing. I knew that if my daughter was way darker than me, one, I need to even up my game more. Like, I have dark relatives in my family. I'm their ally. I'm anybody's ally, you know? That's important to me. But the relatability, if I have the power to do that relatability, I have to get what I can out of it, because I already lost my DNA. Right. I have to get mine some way, in some fashion, you know? And so for me, I wanted someone who was at least 60% Black. The rest didn't matter. But you had to be 60. I was not going to go with a white donor, especially with him being Asian. If he was Black, maybe that would be different. But I was not going to go with a white donor. And I contemplated Asian, but I was like, then I'm just completely out.
Right.
I'm out. And a lot of people think that I'm part Asian as is, but it's not true. Right. I will never be able to walk in your shoes as an Asian person. But I've walked in her shoes as a mixed kid. I know the questions, the challenges, and stuff that people are going to try to force on her and ask my child, pick a side, or you look this. Don't let nobody take your card. You're just lucky you got 2 in the pocket. You're just lucky you get twice the good food. You're just lucky you got twice the churches, because they both can sing. You know? I'm not even into. He introduced her to K-pop. I did not. He don't even like K-pop. He got NKOTB and BTS. So, like, that's a combo. NKOTB and BTS.
It worked.
And Beyonce. Her first song that he played for her was Beyonce, Single Ladies.
The challenge, you know, and you just recently joined our group, but the challenge that we get all the time is, I just want something to identify so I can tell my child, like, you know, I can help them walk through things. And if I pick a child who is not culturally based as me, I can't tell them how to navigate things. And I think that's something important for you to say. So we get when people say that, because, you know, I'm already removing so many things from myself.
Yeah.
that I just don't want to give that up, and
Yeah,
that's
I'm
why
taking the
bringing the
L.
awareness. Yeah,
I'm
it's
taking the
bringing the
L. So let me get my W where I can.
get to. I
I'm
mean,
just saying. So yeah, I mean, but some of that, if we get more into this conversation, some of that became irrelevant, but it was more so I just needed her to be 60% black. I just needed 60% because that's what I am.
right.
I'm 60%, well, technically 50, but I'm half black. And my mom is not going to treat her any different. And so the thing about me also is that my mom's best friends are Korean. So I knew that I could nurture that balance. I can nurture that. I can build a strong child. I have that community that's going to give her the foundation of who she is. It's not just about me carrying this egg, it's about what I produce as a human being in the long run too. And that's what I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be part of a legacy of creating a child that my heart, when I'm not here, my heart is in her and goes on. And that she knows that even though, because we're older, when we're gone, she has the foundation that she needs. And there's perks to being an older mom. We know who we are, right? We're not still trying to figure things out. We don't, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I do like that. We're not there. We're like, move out my way. I'm going this way. Are you on this bus with me or not? Move out my way. We're financially more stable. He's former military, I'm former military. We have wisdom in other areas. He's a pilot, We have this wisdom in our career fields too. I wanted to be, and this is why I didn't want kids until after I was 35, honestly. I didn't want them at first, I just wanted to adopt, but I want to be my kid's role model. I want to be her role model. I want her to see mommy and be like, mommy did that, I can do that too. I needed to accomplish things before I had a kid. That's what my thing was. And there's nothing wrong with being a young mom. There's nothing wrong with me. Don't get me wrong on that, okay? But there's just something about having your own identity, being strong, if he goes down, my career can carry us. We have a savings. I have to start putting into her college fund now, though I'm no longer working, but I got to do that, There's pros and cons to both of them. There's pros and cons to both of them. I have to live to 90. I have to live to 80 to see a grandkid, but I have to live to 90. I have to. So now after whatever we talk about next, tomorrow I'm going to the gym regardless, but I have to get myself together.
Well, I mean, I would say this, we can close it because, but I just want to ask you this, is, for anybody who is watching out there, any regrets? Like now that Arya is here, like, are there any regrets? Like, bond, talk about the bond that you have or the lack of it, even talk about how did you even figure out, the feelings that you found out which embryo actually took?
My regrets are not starting this earlier. But like I didn't know about this until I was already 38, I didn't know. And that kind of frustrates me. And that's why I try to talk about it as much as possible, because I don't want to be talking to the 40-year-old, to be honest with you. Right. I don't want to be talking to any of you. I want to talk to the 25 to 35-year-old, because I don't want them to be without knowledge so that they can't make decisions and say, okay, I want a family later on, let me put some eggs on ice. I don't want that power to be taken away from anybody, because it's just too emotional. It's such an emotional journey. So, I mean, I love speaking to you guys, but I'm just saying, us talking about it now, we're all in the thick of it. Imagine if somebody talked to us about this when we were 32. You know, that's important to me. So I have regrets about hesitating and fears of it, that caused me to like withdraw from people for a while. Everybody around me in my family was pregnant. And I just sat there and watched this happen. And both of them were accidental pregnancies. The moment I got over in my head that I was pregnant, see, that's the issue I had. I was so paranoid because that last miscarriage really jacked me up mentally. I went in there and I had to pee before the ultrasound and the blood was there. It wasn't even a lot. And then when I got up on that screen and I saw it all just taken away from me, just like that, swoosh. I was so deep in my emos. I mean, justifiably. And then for my body to be holding on to a pregnancy that wasn't going to be viable, it was just so much. And so I was like, am I about to go through that again? Someone's going to take this baby from me. It's not going to last. It's not going to last. I'm going to lose her. I'm going to go pee and there's going to be blood and it's going to be over with. It's going to be over with. And all my hopes again, and I got to start all over again, and I got to do this again, because who gets lucky at their second try? Who gets lucky? Not me. Not this girl. Not this girl who's been trying for 10 years. Not after miscarriage, not almost near death. Not after having her organs tied in a freaking knot. Not me. Not me. And then as Black women, we question our happiness. Is somebody gonna love me? Am I okay for a baby? Does a baby want me? You know? I started feeling rejected by babies, not by my mentality too. I started feeling like babies were saying, no, you ain't gonna work. That's how messed up I started to get. But I had somebody slap me in the head.
Bring you back down to reality.
Yeah, I had a good support group. Sherry was part of that. Day, I went to the bathroom in the morning. I checked for blood every single day. Anytime I went to the bathroom and I had to wipe, I was just scared. I was terrified. I did not talk about being pregnant. Like, I talked to myself and I talked to my husband and I talked to my doctors, talked a little bit to my relatives and my support system, but I didn't really talk about it too much. I just kind of kept a little, because I was scared, like, I'm going to put myself out there and look like a complete fool. Because I'm going to just miscarry again. I'm just going to, this is me. This is what my life is. It's got to always be the hard way for me. It can never be the, oh, wake up pregnant. Oh, that story. It can never be that for me. So when the fifth month came along and I finished this like preliminary thing where they determined there's no Down syndrome and all that stuff. Okay. He comes to me and said, you're coming down way too hard on yourself. You need to enjoy this. This is what you've wanted for 10 years and now you have it and you're not enjoying it because you're too busy being paranoid. And I realized maybe he's right. And so I started making humor of my pregnancy. And that's when I started doing my dancing TikTok videos and my little posts and stuff like that. And, doing things like that to just make fun of me being pregnant and the side effects. And I regret that I wasn't able to relax because there's a time period that I kind of missed. I regret that I didn't talk to her as much. I was scared to talk to her. I was scared to bond with her. I did not start bonding with her until she was like, I was at 6 months. Yeah. And then, it just, my support system was just so freaking amazing. I had the best nationwide support system. And the other regret I had is that I wish I had transferred too.
There's no guarantees that would have worked, so we can't.
At least I tried. At least I tried. Like 2 viable, strong embryos. Strong, that's what I wish. And my birthing experience wasn't the best. I did miss out on some stuff from my delivery because I got some stuff happened to me, but that was none of my control. It had nothing to do with my health at all. It was doctors. There was some issues with that, but I wish we would have been able to afford more. If we just knew that if I had faith in it more, if he had faith in it more, I think we would have done at least 8 eggs. Mm-hmm. So that lands us where we are now. This past January, I used my last embryo of that, and it didn't take. And it was a 4B.
So you're doing a new donor now?
Yes.
Okay.
I already got the eggs. I already got the embryos. And I will be going to Colorado because I'm on the West Coast. And that's what I was talking to him. It's like, Utah, how do you feel about Utah? Because technically it's only like 2 states away, so it's not too far. I did my last embryo transfer in Syracuse. I flew back to Syracuse from Oregon, from Washington State. And everything was lined up for this to work until I had the transfer. And after I had the transfer, we had a blizzard. I had to hustle to leave a day earlier. Like with her, I didn't do jack for 3 days. Mm-hmm. My supporter said, "Sit there and bake, bitch." That's what she said. Bake. Just bake. Don't do anything. Just become a potato on the bed. Don't do anything. Don't go walk the dog. So it was in a hotel. I laid there eating food. I didn't eat the healthiest food, but it was at a hotel, and it was also a blizzard at that time too. But I didn't do anything. Like, I just relaxed. Did a self-facial thing and sat on the bed and just relaxed. And we left 2 days later. The first transfer, we got on the road right afterwards, and I was cramping. Right. And I told him, I don't think this one's going to take because I'm cramping too much. I don't think this cramping this is how it was supposed to be. It was so much. Right. I had no cramping with her. So that's what made it even more paranoid. I was like, well, did it take? Did it latch? I had no pain, no complaints during her entire pregnancy other than I had to have a McDonald's sausage, egg, and cheese burrito every morning, or I would tear the whole house down. And she's a carnivore, and I wasn't a heavy meat eater. So this last transfer, I got stuck at an airport for 7 hours. I had to carry a bag that was over 25 pounds, like everything. So basically we were going to take off. The plane has been already defrosted and everything, turned back around because the guy starts having a heart attack on the plane, offboard him. Then we had to defrost again. Then we go back in the thing, but now I've missed my connection flight. Oh my. And I'm going to be at the airport in Dallas for 7 hours because I fell asleep and missed when they announced it. So I'm now looking for connection flights at the last minute because I missed all the good stuff, I was out. And first, girl, let me tell you how good I treated myself. I got myself first class tickets on the way back.
Amen, girl. Listen, I go to Utah. I don't even play that. I'll comfort plus or first class.
I lost it because the connection flight, which was supposed to be first class, I lost it because the storm put me out. So then I had to get on this cramped little tiny plane, and they even didn't allow me to, I had to downsize my bags. I was just like, oh my God. Then when I got here, Aria was going through something. I think she was like 14 months, and she was going through some kind of period, and she wanted me to pick her up all the time. And I was like, I can't be picking you up. You're 26 pounds. And she'd start climbing up your leg. So it was like, and then he had to travel. So then I had to be the one to deal with her. It was like everything after that transfer just fell apart. And I just felt like, we're sad about that. We're sad about that. But we just picked a second donor. Don't worry about height because her donor was 5'4". Sherry and I picked our donors around the same time we were scrolling. I was like, I need somebody 5'7", Sherry. I'm tall. I can't be I want somebody tall, And I did think about that. But this girl, she was like 5'4". But she looked more like my family, so you win some, you lose some. Aria's in 97th percentile. She's taller than average 2-year-old. We don't know where that's coming from. So things may change out. His side of the family, the highest person I think is like 5'10". I think that's him. I have 6-footers in my family, but and unless it's that study in which is my genetics have decided to influence her genetics to make her taller, maybe that's what it is. But she could stop growing. We don't even know. Don't worry about that. You have no control over that. Don't worry about what you don't have control of. If I'd known that, I would have moved faster on things. And so we have a new donor now, and she's 5'7". And I've got my embryos for her, but that was a nightmare too. And there's something I do want to cover in this conversation for you to share. In March of 2024, the military changed its policy on covering people with fertility issues. Before, and I had to actually report the OIG, Office of Inspector General, this because it was being read incorrectly at some places where it was saying that you had to be a heterosexual couple, and that's not true. You just have to have somebody who has an ovary naturally, and you have to have somebody who has the other half of that naturally, okay? Everything just has to be able to come naturally from those people. So if you're a trans person and you just haven't gone through full trans and you have your lady parts, get them out while you can, have the baby while you can. And if you're a male that's going through trans, get your stuff out while you can. Do you know what I mean? That's really the way the policy was written. And it was written to me that I had to be heterosexual, I had to be married. They will not, that's the only thing that's solid about this. You do have to be married. They will not do it for a single strong woman. They will not do it for same-sex couples that like straight up same-sex couples. They won't do it for that. But the other thing was they only did your stuff. You could only use your stuff. Well, in March of this year, they changed it, and now they cover donor eggs 100%, the whole process. And I got qualified for it instantly. So I'm fully paid for now. So we'll be going to Utah. I have 3 eggs. I have 3 eggs I have to use at CMY. We're going to give those a shot, in the process of this. But I'm just, it breaks my heart that I can't have the same donor. And she left. She did one time and she never came back. That's a risk you got to take. That's
exactly. That's the risk that you take when you get a donor. And, she could be in there. And you're also in a period of time, too, that you were looking at what a lot of us were. We were in the middle of COVID, too. So the disparity, too, was even lower because they couldn't get anybody in the clinic. So then that went down, too, during that time, too. So it was really hard to find it. They have just now started picking up the pool of donors now. So now, you can maybe find someone, somewhere. But us, we were like looking very hard, and they were just being snatched up, like left and right.
Have those, do you have those full out donor egg sites and stuff like that? And we can cover this a little bit. The issue is that with those full out donor sites, there's a transfer fee. So you have to take that in consideration. The fertility clinic that you go to, they're going to charge you a fee to use an outside source as well. So you have there's all these fees that'll get added up if you use an outside donor. So that's why a lot of people tend to just try to go ahead. Why don't you hold this crayon? No, that's too logical. Use the inside donor. Yeah, because you just end up saving money. So we had our embryos transferred to Colorado, where I will be doing my transfer there because at least it's on the same time zone. So I'm going to Colorado Springs. Please don't.
We have somebody in the chat. She loves Colorado. She did her transfer there, and she has her daughter. So,
any doctors you recommend? I know it's not guaranteed because I don't know much about Colorado.
Who did you? It's Keisha. You can ask her in the group, but
Keisha?
she had.
She's been talking to me all the time. Okay.
Yeah, she had she went to Colorado, and it was I think it was the Asian doctor that was there. So he did a transfer and it worked. So I think that we should take some questions to see. We have a little time to take some questions in the chat. If you're just joining us, we have Freedom here. She used CNY to do her first embryo transfer. She used her own embryo along with her donor embryo. And the one that took was her donor embryo. And she has said that it doesn't matter. As you see, she's climbing on top of her and having a heyday. So you don't know the difference, as we can see here. So
yeah, you don't. Look, wait. I mean, I'm confused. They say we can't have children on TikTok, and I think that's what she said last.
They can't be by themselves, so they can't be. You just can't have them in a camera just doing it. So she's fine.
This child,
because you're with her.
This child is 100% her daddy, just like she. It don't matter. It don't matter. And you got to think about it this way. When you have a pregnancy naturally and the egg is fertilized inside of you, they say like slowly over time, you may see more signs of yourself in that baby, but for the most part, it is very strong, the child. Ain't nothing here. Just all daddy.
Well, she climbing on top of you. She been like all over you, so she fine with it. So we're gonna take questions from the chat if anybody has them, because me and Frida are in the same box. You can actually see them too as well. So if you have any questions about her process, what her next steps are, feel free to go ahead and chime in. And I thank you guys for all the patience. We actually got up even with all the things, and I appreciate you guys so much. We got up to 30K likes today. So, right. And I mean, had we started on time and everything, we would have had more people in here. But this is what I say all the time. And Sherry and Shannon always know that. I'm like, always the people who are supposed to be here are going to be here. So the people who are meant to hear this, they are going to be the ones who hear it. So how do you know if you need the IVF process?
So that's the thing. You have to have a discussion with your doctor. And you have to, it's like pulling crocodile teeth on information that you don't know sometimes. If you're finding yourself not able to carry, if you have flat out period, if you have endometriosis, you need to be in an IVF clinic to be assessed. Flat out period. If you have that pelvic inflammatory POC or whatever, you need to be in an IVF clinic, flat out period. And it just frustrates me that when you have those illnesses and your doctor doesn't say that to you right up the bat, because that's the people that are 100% should be in there regardless. You should be in there regardless. If you are finding, like, if you're really trying and it's taking too long, the worst case scenario, the easiest case scenario, let's be cheap about it, okay? First of all, those little strips, the little fertility ovulation cycle thing, that's going to be your first step. And if that does the trick for you, good for you. Good for you. Several claps, okay? But if you need more, you need to be starting that as young as possible. And two, you want to try IUI. Because that's cheaper. I'm not bashing donor eggs. I'm talking about your pocketbook right now. Okay, I'm just talking about your pocketbook. Because the more assistance you need, the more it costs. Sperm analysis and egg testing, HSG, SIS, all this other stuff, it all adds up. It all adds up. So I would say it's better to say, I don't know that I need it. Let me go see if I do.
Exactly. So an IUI, someone's asking is, so basically, I would say this, if you are over 35, do not do IUI. It is a waste of time. So basically after 35, it's just basically timed, what you call timed intercourse, which just basically means that you are tracking, you get your cycle, you're tracking, with ovulation kits, and you're making sure that you are on the right track, and then you basically do the deed, and then you hope for that. Well, IUI is just basically they monitor you instead of you just doing it yourself. So they're making sure that, and sometimes you get medication. So sometimes you will get what's called Femara or Clomid. That's a very those are two popular medications. They're cheap, that's what she said, but they're budget friendly. Most of the time they're covered underneath your insurance. And then so if you're having a hard time, they can essentially help you ovulate. Maybe you ovulate more than one egg. And so that you can have a better increase your chances. But if you're over 35, you've been trying for 6 months, I personally would not recommend you do an IUI because this is just pretty much what you're just doing at home.
Yeah, yeah, and it's more expensive. Your shots are still making it or the same.
It's the same. It's the same. It's just you being at home. You're just doing enough. So an IUI is going to cost you about $800, $800 to $1,200 depending on the clinic. So try it maybe one time, but to me, like my personal opinion is do it. It's cheaper, but it's still, yeah, it's just taking money away from IVF. So if you're having,
yeah, I have that same issue. Have issues with population.
So Femera and Clomid, they help women probably who have diagnosed with PCOS. So they kind of help you push, and then you're able to do that. So if you have issues ovulating, then yes, Femera is going to be a good one. And it's probably like $10 if you have insurance. If that, you can always just get a Good RX coupon. A lot of times it's covered underneath that. Mm-hmm. So it's going to help you with that part. And then maybe your OB can help and track a little bit. So that will be underneath your insurance too as well, because you're just going to the regular OB and not a clinic. But if it doesn't happen like the first 1 or 2, maybe even 3 cycles, then I would probably go see your fertility doctor.
Yeah.
Just to do your lab and do a workup.
I want to see.
So that's what's going to help you. That's what's going to ultimately help you. And like Freedom said, we're not talking about saying that this is the end all or be all answer. It just gets you the answers.
And the other thing, if you have endometriosis, you might have irregular periods. And so if you go in, at least they will be able to get like in a couple of days, I have to call CMY and let them know that I have to take these pills that induce my period, because my period has been jacked up because I had nursed until I was 12 months almost, until she was 12 months almost. It was like 11 months and I stopped. But because of my age, it takes me a longer time for my body to recover on some things. And they were like, well, maybe you're going through menopause. But then I started having periods and I was like, okay, but you can have your last periods in menopause too. They just don't know, because menopause apparently starts at 40.
So perimenopause, women go in perimenopause, and that's just when your cycles become really, irregular. So sometimes they'll shorten, sometimes they'll be longer. So it just depends on that.
But I've been like that all my life. If you
don't have a regular cycle, definitely I would go to a fertility doctor.
Yeah. They will help you. You'll get the medicine. It'll put you in it. And then so the thing is, you take the medicine, if it makes a period come on, and then they can do a baseline. Nobody can really see what's going on with you until you have that baseline. And that baseline is going to tell them how much estrogen, progesterone, whatever the chemicals are in your body. And that right there is going to be the key indicator of what medication that you go on in order to get your body to a place in which a retrieval or a transfer or retrieval can take effect. So
exactly. So if you're not having one, so what they're going to do is, if you're not having a regular cycle, they're going to give you a medication called Provera. So it's basically the opposite of progesterone. So it's a smaller dose, but it's the same thing. They give you smaller quantities of it, and that's to help just to trick your body into starting a cycle. Yeah. So you get progesterone. It's both the same thing. They just call it different thing. They just call it that because the milligrams are going to be a little bit reduced. But definitely, if you're not getting a cycle, if you've been trying, and you've been doing things with your OB, check your insurance. A lot of times you will get like at least a free consult with your OB, with your fertility doctor, and then they will check your insurance, and you may find out, I know, Gorgeous, we talked about it, and you said your employer, and you didn't even know about it, but I said, yeah, your employer has coverage. You just need to talk to them and see, what it is. But you can go to a clinic, and see what that actually is, the actual coverage. And what people don't realize is a lot of times when you have coverage, so let's just say an employer gives you 25K.
Okay.
That insurance is going to give you a better discount because now you have insurance that they're not going to maybe charge you as much. So you may get a discount with it being underneath insurance where it normally would have cost you 16. But now because you are with an insurance company, it may only cost you like 8. So you may not eat through your benefits as quickly as you think you are. But you definitely need to, if family planning is in the horizon, then you need to definitely do that.
CNY, a lot of so here's a really important thing to know. Shady Grove and a lot of the major fertility clinics, they do outside financing. And that financing is through Ally or some other company. We did that. We did about 9,000 of that when we tried the first time and it failed. CNY has in-house financing and the interest rate is just so low. It's awesome. And you're only really doing a good, you put 25% down. So that might be like, it depends on what you're doing, $3,000 to $5,000. And then your monthly payments on that. And so we paid her, look how weird this sounds. We paid her off by the time she was born. So I sold my BMW. I sold my BMW because I knew the expenses would just, like, you really got to think about your finances before this so that you're not in too much of a financial harm. And I've never applied for a grant. Like I said, after this, I said if my second transfer didn't happen, I was going to go in and do these grants. But then the transfer happened and I took. So that I know how blessed I am. I know how lucky I am. I am an anomaly when it comes to when it happened. Normally it's like the 4th or 5th. I'm an anomaly. But for the most part, look at those grants. Ronnie has that grant information. I do not. And I have the VA now that's fully covering, paying for everything for me. So Aetna did not. Aetna was a nightmare to work with. And I never had problems with them before. Never, ever. But with fertility, I did have that problem. So before you go to your open season at your employer, 4 months before that happened, well, 4 months before my open season, I was looking at all the packages on the government OPM website and looking to see who covered it. And that's how I found out that it's not really covered in the state of Virginia, DC, or Maryland. It's just not covered there. So you need to go in 4 months. You really got to plan this out. It's not a lot of planning. Does it matter which spouse was in the military? So there's the VA and the VA hospital are two separate things. Veteran Affairs is the official thing that takes care of veterans. And when you're active duty, you go through it's not the same as TRICARE. It's not the same as TRICARE. For military people, you have to have had a disability connected thing in order to access it to get full coverage. And so if your husband is having issues, or if you're the active duty person and you're having issues, you're going to get an assessment done, and they've gotten a lot better with that. And then after that, you will get a percentage grade, and then they can take care of you. But here's the thing, even if you get a 5% percentage grade, even if you get a 5% percentage grade on your disability, the whole concept of fertility is not something that the VA can do, so you get outsourced. You're going to get sent out. So I got referrals sent from the VA to these other clinics, and they said, okay, just do what she needs, we'll pay for it. So they have to work with the VA. That's the other case. That's the bigger picture right there. Regardless if you're the active duty going through the Veteran Affairs as a VA person, or that you're going through TRICARE as the spouse or whatever, you have to make sure that the clinics work with the VA, and CMY works with the VA. That was the other bonus for us. So that's really critical, because it can be a lot of FUBAR going on right there. So yeah.
That's like, honestly, that's like really good information, because we get all the time, like, does the military cover? And I don't really know like the full answer. And like, I know it does, but you need to do your homework. And that's the thing is, anytime you're like wanting to do something, I can only give you so much information, because this is the thing. I got benefits, okay? I had at one point so many benefits that I didn't even know what to do with all the benefits, okay? I was on a mission to look for benefits. I can't do that for you. I have a job. My job has benefits. I'm not really looking anymore. So now you're missing the opportunity where I was in the thick of things. And as I told you last week, I was looking at every employer, going through every single thing, going through forums, going through all of that. I don't have to do that anymore. My job covers it. I have excellent benefits. They just sent off my pre-authorization. Like, I have everything. So I'm not as hungry. And I have to say that. I am not as hungry because I already know what I need to do. You need to be hungry.
Yeah,
if this is something you want to do, you have got to. If you don't understand, I can read insurance like a book, okay? I am the insurance guru. I will go through every piece of paper, every documentation. I will tell you whether or not your coverage is there, because that's what I do, because I want to help you. But for me to be hungry like she was, you have to be in an attack mode, because she didn't just stop at, okay, I work at the Veterans Affairs, blah, blah, blah. No, she went and dug a little bit deeper. She asked the question. She asked what needed to be asked. And so now she's able to say confirmly, like, I know this works. But if you really want to know truly if your job like has these things, like, you need to be hungry to see what it is. Because bottom line is, they're not going to tell you. They don't want you to use it.
And it's individual case by case thing. Like,
right.
What you need and the information you need is going to vary. It's never going to be necessarily the same answer for everybody. So that's very important for people to understand. The other aspect of this is like, you need to understand. See, Sherry got to me a little late about this, so I tried to use Aetna, and my P whatever level was too high, and so I disqualified for getting help under Aetna, and I was short by 2 points.
Wow.
And so it's like, really, come on, man. Yeah. So these are things that I thought I was in your group the whole time. She told me, well, Freedom, they're talking about this in the group. I was like, they are? But I was in another group too, and I was like, I don't see that being talked about here. They are? So that's how I discovered last week. I was like, wait a minute, I am not in this group.
Girl,
what I missed that could have helped me.
We the best kept secret on Facebook.
I mean, that's why I look forward to your panels. I think your panels, when you start to go down that road, it's really going to help as well, because people need to feel like they can, they just need a cookie crumb.
Right.
And then they can work out from that. Like, just give them a little bit of information and they can work out from that. And I feel like a lot of people out there are just so in the dark. I was so in the dark. I did not like the fact that I did not like the fact that I had to dive in the way I had to dive in. It was not fair, and it puts more anxiety on you than you really need, because you're trying. I also was in the middle of this in COVID, and that's what caused it to take so long, because clinics were closed, or only a certain amount of people could be there at a certain time, and that type of stuff. So, I mean, it's all full swing now, though. It's all full swing.
Yeah, they're back to normal now, which is a great thing. They're taking patients. I mean, we're very grateful that the clinics are now open, but, definitely, yeah. I mean, Nay, to me, and again, it's depending on your age, but would I go sooner rather than later, especially you saying you haven't had a cycle? I definitely would, speak to someone, just run the testing. I mean, that's just basic blood work, you calling. So, they may just need to give you a little Provera just to trigger things, and then, kind of go from there and see what's going on. That is just the recommendation, not as a doctor, but just saying from personal experience, if this is something that you want to do, definitely go and seek the help. And there's nothing wrong with seeking the help. Yeah. And, I think what I want to just raise the awareness is, and I think that what we all go through is, everyone just says, well, if you stop thinking about it, like, it'll happen. And the truth of the matter is, it may not happen. And so I don't want you to sit here and wait 2 or 3 years for something when you could have been proactive about it. I advocate being proactive for yourself. I also proactively say, if you're not getting the answers that you need, go somewhere else.
Go somewhere
Go
else.
somewhere else.
And let's be frank, time isn't on our hands.
Right.
So
go somewhere else.
Yeah, if you can get a consultation at 2 places at one time, that's really, really beneficial, because you can also compare the information that's being given to you. And then
Right.
the other aspect of that is like, don't think that you have to. It's not. If you do have to go out to state, it's not too hard. Like with CNY, I don't know if people know this. When you do out of state, all of the monitoring is on you to get accomplished. All of that is on you. Your blood work and it feels like it's going to be a lot, but it's really not. There's 2 things that you really just have to stay on top of. Well, 3. Your meds, which is in your control, right? Showing up to the clinic to do your ultrasounds and getting your blood work. I thought there was going to be like 16 different things that I had to take care of. And it's really not all that. Get yourself one of those little pill popper things like Sherry and I have. I have a month one. I have a month one because I said I ain't doing this every week. I did a whole month.
That's what I'm gonna do too, because I'm like, I can't do it.
And then find 2 clinics that work with giving you your monitoring. Because if something gets too backed up, like LabCorp, I use LabCorp because there's always a LabCorp around. But one of the LabCorps I went to one time, their systems had crashed, and so I needed to have that all kind of mapped out in advance, and then your monitoring system, have a backup to your monitoring system. Here's what a lot of people don't know: it's not really the hospital's job to do this, but if you find yourself in a pickle and you can go to ER and they will do your ultrasound for you, but they can't do all the blood work. Isn't that weird? A hospital does not do all the blood work. I thought when I had a situation where I was like, oh my God, I got to get this monitoring done. And the clinic had something going on. It was the middle of COVID. It's still COVID too. I was like, I'm just going to go to ER. Screw it. I'm going to go there. And she was like, well, we can't do your blood work. I was like, this is a hospital. How can you not do the blood work in the hospital? They don't test for everything. They don't do that. So you still got to go to a LabCorp and stuff like that. Know in advance what functions or resources are going to be offered to you when you map this out. It's not that hard. It seems like a lot, but it really isn't that hard.
It's all just about navigating it. You're right. It's just about navigating it, especially if you're doing a clinic that's not in town. You may have to navigate things and be a little bit different, but you definitely, somebody in the chat said they have 4, 3rd clinic. My clinic is my 10th clinic. So I'm not telling you anything that I every time I share things, it's not because it's recommended. It's what I did. I didn't like what I heard. I moved on.
Yeah.
And I finally found a clinic that I felt in line with me. And that's not always, and so, when I'm getting to my clinic that I was getting to, and they're actually take the time to read, actually take the time to listen to what I had experienced, I knew I was in the right place. And I said to them, like, I've done this, and this. And she looked at me and she said, wow, I can tell that you have had such a hard journey, but that stops here. And you deserve to be a mother. You deserve all the things because you've gone through too much for you not to experience what you have longed for. And I knew
clinic.
I knew I was in the right place. It wasn't talking about the lack of my ovaries not working. It wasn't even talking about the issue about my weight. We weren't talking about anything. It was them just taking the time to get to know me and saying,
you ping on something.
Yes, them listening to my story. I didn't have to beg for help. Mm-hmm. They said, we are here to help you. And even with all the fails, my nurse will still say the work isn't done. You will not leave us in it. I remember them telling me this to my, you will not leave this clinic without your baby. Like that is the type of energy and
that
I
you
just
need.
that
You
you
have to
need
have it. You
because
have
they
to.
believe in me. When I don't
Yes.
believe in myself, they believe in me. They are like, you can do it. If the only way that we're gonna stop if you tell us you want to stop. And if you
Exactly.
want to stop, then we respect that. But if you don't want to stop, we will do whatever it takes. And that's
And
why I love them so
that's
much.
critical. And I'm just going to be frank. You will not get that at Shady Grove. That's not how they operate. They're a corporation. They're not medical doctors running that. That is a corporate ran entity. And the thing is, it's like, but when I had my monitoring from Shady Grove no longer does outside monitoring.
No, they don't.
But when I had my monitoring done there, the support I got from that nurse, despite the nastiness from other things, was so encouraging and empowering. And she said, since you have to travel, I'm going to make sure you get up there before you reach the lining that you need. I'm going to like try to predict it a day off. That way you have some time and they can check your lining up there and then they can say, okay, it's going to be today or tomorrow for them to do the transfer. And that's what's really important. You need knowledgeable people around you. And then when you go to, like, it got to the point where the lab core I was going to was even telling me, we gonna help you. We got you. We know what this is about. You know, you really need that. Good night, Deanna. You really need that. So you cannot afford to be around negative people in this process at all. I mean, from your doctors to your family, you cannot afford to be around negative people at this all because you're going to be taking so many hits as it is. And you said something earlier, and I wanted to tap on. The other thing to take in consideration is CMY. This is a perk about CMY, and probably you talk to. There's no weight requirements. Shady Grove will try to make you lose weight.
They will. They will.
They will try to make you lose weight. Also, Dominion Fertility did not try to make people lose weight. But Shady Grove will try to make you lose weight. I was already pretty thin at that time, so I didn't have it. But my friend, who is a thick mama, she was really shamed by Shady Grove. And
They told me. They told me.
She got a baby. She has a baby, her own egg, and y'all denied her. Off of her weight, you lost your mind.
Think it's their BMI needs to be underneath 40 in order to do anything. That's to transfer, that's to do an egg retrieval, that's to do anything with them. They require you be 39 or 40 BMI.
So that's the other thing, guys. The reason why you also these standards, these, and I'm gonna just call them what they are, these male standards of BMI that are being put on people. It's not just us; it's also donors. So one of the issues is like, you know, health is an issue in the Black community. It's an issue in the Latina community. It's an issue with most of the minority communities. And that BMI standard is also disqualifying donors. A lot of places will not take donors from people, eggs from people who have a BMI over 40. So that's something to take in consideration. We already have a small candidate pool, like 1 in every 100 is a Black person in the first place, you know? So that's just something people should be aware of. So if you see something you can work with, or you see someone that you think you can work with, don't waste too much time. That's what happened to us this time. It was like, oh, should I just go for someone who has all these batched eggs and just go for it? But she had an illness that I carried. And then, watch, true. And then I switched back, and then I was like, oh, I found someone who's half Polish, half Nigerian. Like, wow, that's Aria, come on now. Someone gotta be in. Someone.
Listen, I'm about to be a star, okay?
I did her hair today. I promise I did her hair today. Okay, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm sorry. Someone has insisted on being part of this conversation.
It's totally fine.
And then I was like, okay, wait, no. He was like, no, let's wait for the insurance to see if the insurance is going to take it. In the meantime, then I lost my place in line. And then when I came back, I was like 7th. And I was like, well, by the time I get to me, it's going to be 3 months down the road, you know? And then I went ahead and went with somebody else, and then she didn't do the cycle for that month. And I was like, oh my God. I wanted to start this process at the beginning of the year. And something that I have had to try to let go of is my age rule for myself of when I have kids. I don't want to be close to 50 when I have my last child. But I may have to accept that. I just may have to do, what's her name, Angela Bassett. I just got to go in Angela Bassett mode, girl.
Wait, listen, we got a 50. We got, so India, Indigo, she's going to come on. She's 50, having her first, she had her first. So we have 50-year-olds in the group who have babies. They just give them a run for their money, but I can't wait to like share those stories of just older women, and like
that's the most important one.
The possibility that it can happen. So as long as the this is working, you still can bring home a baby. You just have to, again, it's just creative ways of you just to do it. So
yeah, my thing is that it was for me. It was
right.
My mental block. And I don't want that toll on my body. I don't want to be going through that at 50. So I'm hustling. I'm hustling to get this second baby and be done. That's my goal. That's my goal.
And if you guys wanted to, you can follow Simply Tanika as well. Like, she's an older one. And I think she's going, I haven't caught up with her lately, but she's going on her second transfer. She had a son last year. And so now she's on the road to baby number 2, and she's over 50 as well. So she's on YouTube. She's documented her journey as well.
I might have to take a look at her.
Yeah, she's definitely on the train. I mean, 30 is young, and 35. I mean, I would say definitely try to just find out the answers before 35. Just because your age just declines after that. So 29, you're fine.
You're fine.
And I don't want to say that lightly, like you're fine, but I would definitely start getting the answers, especially if you're not getting.
You don't have to rush through the process. You can take your time, download, and process things. First, when you're maybe 38, you're like, oh snap, I've got to hustle into this. And if we have another COVID or something, it's not like it's going to put a hit on you so hard that you're going to be in a tight spot. You still have some breathing space to recoup even after something like that. So you're fine. Actually, I would say like 29 to 35 is the perfect time to get into this and absorb it.
Yeah, just get the answers that you need, And again, if you weren't having a cycle, I would say, try that. But if you're not getting a cycle, definitely you need to find out why. I mean, it could be several different things. It just could be, weight can be a factor. There's studies that say that estrogen, is held within the fat cells. And so it definitely prolongs it. I do know for a fact, because I was overweight, that I definitely see a difference now that I've lost weight. I definitely see a difference in just the way my body performs. I'm not as hot as much, anymore. And that's just because I'm not as heavy. I used to have major hot flashes. Like, I would be sweating at night. And, the fact that I'm at my age and not doing a lot of that, I definitely think that weight was a big contributor. I purposely lost weight before I did my 4th transfer. And that was just because I wanted to know, like, what Freedom is saying is, I understand that me being older already puts a toll on pregnancy as it is. So I don't want it to be anything extra.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, if I can control that, and that's what, if I can control that, which I can control my weight, I can do things to prevent that, then I just set myself up for a more successful transfer, a more healthier pregnancy, all of those things. And we do know that women overweight have children all the time.
Yeah.
But when it comes to already getting medical treatment along with this, you're already at a higher risk, because IVF pregnancies do carry a higher risk than normal pregnancies. So if I can eliminate some of those things, I'm going to eliminate it. Listen, we're not even paying attention. We're just doing that. So, but yeah, I mean, this was great.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for taking your time. I thank
Oh,
so you
absolutely.
guys so much for just, hanging out with us. Technical difficulties are a part of it. This is our second episode. We're ending the night with almost 35. If y'all could just do me a favor, because we real close, and y'all could just tap that screen and just get us up to 35K likes. And I won't answer nothing else.